it's always kind of fun walking through the boatyard and not knowing the details of the projects and then sort of discovering for yourself what it is. And here's sort of an interesting example. What we're looking at is actually a compound. It's called Splash Zone, and it's an epoxy putty that's actually designed to be used outside in the marine environment. It actually will cure in the presence of water, and in fact you use water to sort of work it into its shape. And I'm not necessarily sure here that the splash zone was essential to stop the boat from sinking, because there's a big old piece of wood here that the fastenings that were used to be here have pulled out. But what's really the story is this. This is what's called a bobstay fitting. And you can see right on the top here that the screws are all still in place, yet on the backside, the water had gotten to this and it's all corroded. And in here, they actually had either completely rusted away or sheared off. And then in addition to that, you can see on this eye fitting how there's a lot of corrosion here. And it's just a great example that there is a durable life of every part that makes up a boat. And we can't be ignorant of the fact that the boat is sitting in a corrosive environment, and that corrosive environment is working 24/7 to take your boat apart. And so if you're not being just the least bit inquisitive about, well, when was the last time this fitting was removed? How well is it secured? What are the conditions of the fastenings, that it's conceivable that something like this could let go? And the real big issue certainly is that if it was through the boat and then the boat took on water, that's not an insignificant matter. I hate it when my boat sinks. But even if that wasn't an issue and you say, well, I'm not worried about it, if this fitting comes loose as it has, it's intended to support the bowsprit. So you could actually lose the bowsprit, you could have the mast coming down, and it could all be traced to something as simple as these fastenings right here that are just down to a thread. And these are the kinds of things that, unless you actually kind of see what goes on in the boatyard on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to gain a full appreciation of the consequences of these types of things. And so there's a little value in my just grabbing Marianne and saying, all right, come over here and let's take a look at this thing, because it actually tells a pretty interesting story. So I just mentioned some of the problems that exist here, but what we want to make sure of is not only do we make the repairs and they're done properly, but we actually take some measures so that maybe this problem won't reoccur. And what you can see here is that actually this fitting was installed very, very close to the water line of the boat. It was landing right here and the water was sitting here. And there was one screw here and then these two screws there. But if this had just been moved up a little bit and it's new installation, when we redo it, we need to rebuild this wire anyway. It's really not going to change the geometry enough so that the bowsprit won't get the support that it needs. But what we will have done is we've removed this potential of the metal being very close to the water and accelerating the degradation of the fastenings. And so one of the things that we really, in fact, take a lot of pride in the yard, is not just addressing the problems, but also trying to look at what the root cause of that problem is, and if there is a cost-effective solution so that we can avoid that problem from reoccurring again. And there is just a simple solution of where one might relocate this to avoid it sitting in the water. So if you want to really define what, in our view, constitutes best value, it really is not only the great workmanship, but it's doing it in such a way that we're not maybe mimicking the problems of the past, but we've corrected them so that we don't duplicate them in the future. There's our afternoon in the boatyard.